Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Brian. Today we're going to be checking out another popular request, which is this week's theme, and we're going to be checking out a very popular request, which is this week's theme. We're doing FLESHGOD Apocalypse today. We have a ton of requests for this one. We got Trevor Martin, Mika Vananen, Samelin, Lorenzo Lazaris, Biff Tannen, Daniel Giaro, Marl Fox 570, Sam Hammond, Steven or Stefan, Yotam Bronstein. I'm going to get that right one of these days. Torsion Model, Josh McGowan, Hugo SO166, Ahmed Tejini, Dalgor Ben Gauthier, Fernando Ribeiro, Luis Gomez, and Jakob Niemann. Again, as usual, if I messed any of those up, I am very sorry. Name pronunciation is not my strong suit. So yes, there was a couple of requests, but The Violation was by and far the most requested track. So that's the one we're going to be checking out today. Let's see what this I don't have a lot of high hopes with a name called FLESHGOD Apocalypse. It's a name that definitely does not make me think we're going to be listening to anything pleasant. But then again, we did Slice the Cake this week, and I thought that would have been a little more pleasant than it was. So, maybe these bands just don't always name themselves, appropriate to their genre. Very cool so far. Proper orchestra usage. I love this. Wow. Strong musicianship, strong composership. I mean, this is wild. I'm so glad there's some cleans here. Nice little bit of halftime for a little bit more emotion in the guitar solo. Okay, I know I didn't say much during that. That was probably the most boring reaction ever. And I'm pretty sure that my face and eyes kind of glazed over a couple of times, just getting sucked into it and just absorbing it all. Um, this was good. This was good. This was good. So yeah, I mentioned that these guys are very strong musicians and composers, and I think it shows throughout the entire song. The majority of this is very fast, very loud, very brutal. Wall of sound, blast beats. Really fast tremolo picking. It is a fast song all over the place. It's loud, it's brutal, and they're really just showing their chops as far as speed goes, and the ability to continue to play stamina. That's what I'm looking for. The ability to continue to play at this speed for very long periods of time. But interestingly, behind this brutalness, you have the orchestra part, or the strings. I don't want to say an orchestra, but definitely a string part. There's probably at least I heard three unique voices in the opening, the string only section. So maybe this is a string quartet working on this, but at least in the string part, you can hear a lot of music nuance as far as the composition goes, the way that the instruments work together, the way that they fill in each other's gaps. There's really strong sense, counterpoint going on in there. And just some really cool. It's not even just that it's good writing, it's good classical writing. There's a lot of classical techniques that are being utilized in this song, and that it goes farther than just typical or chord progressions that are more typical of that type of music. Because metal has a lot that it owes to blues. And that's because metal was adapted from rock, and rock came from blues, and that's just kind of the way it goes. And there's a lot of um, difference in the chord qualities that get used in metal versus the quality of chords that get used in classical. You can hear it even if you don't know it. You can probably hear when you listen to music. You can hear that there's a different tone or a different color to classical music than to metal, and that's not even just listening to the instruments and the way that the instruments sound. If we took the same music, Like if we took a metal track and a classical track and played them on the same instrument, like a piano, I think most people would be able to tell me which one was metal and which one was classical, and it's because of the qualities of the chords that are being used. So this is actually a strong merger of classical and metal. We've seen this before in when we did Faust by the Human Abstract. I mentioned how there was a lot of classical influence in the chord progression, chord choices, stuff like that inside of the song. We're seeing a lot of that same stuff going on here, but they're doing it in a very fast way. I don't think I've ever heard classical music theory being merged with speed metal. I don't know if this is speed metal because it has brutalness to it too, and that makes me think of death metal. And I don't know if they're speed death metal. Like all these subgenres are just it's a lot for me to take in at times, and most of the time when I'm talking about genres, I'm just kind of muddling my way through it and hoping I'm somewhere close to what I'm supposed to be understanding. There's just a lot of stuff with these genres. But yes, this is like a brutal speed, and I don't think I've ever heard this merged with, classical theory, and just this is a very unique sound that I've never heard before, and it's amplified by the fact that these guys know what they're doing when it comes to writing music. Um, if even if you just listen to the core metal part of the song, you can tell there's something a little more than just straight metal to it, but it's definitely exemplified in the opening um, string section that, these guys definitely have a grasp on classical music, and they know that it's more than just the instruments. Classical music is more than just instrumentation choice. There's a lot of musical ideas that are strong in classical music that don't show up in metal specifically. And these guys just have a strong grasp on that, but they also have a wide knowledge of what makes metal metal, how to make brutal music. Um, I don't know if this is a widespread thing. I kind of thought this for a while, but when I was younger, that brutal metal, when you think of hardcore metal, just this wall of sound stuff, you think it's easy to make. You just play fast and turn the volume up on your amp, and your drummer just smashes things as hard as he can. And I don't know how wide that perception is of metal. It might have just been teenage me thinking that, but there's definitely a lot more to metal than just playing loud and fast. If you just did that, you would end up with a, a trash song. There's a lot that goes into making sure that this brutality is not chaotic, that it's comprehensible. That the emotions that are going into it, even if it's just straight raw anger, if that's the emotion you want to make, there's a lot that there's a lot to the craft to making sure that it gets conveyed and it's not just a garbage fire of a song that makes no sense. So these guys have a strong sense of both what makes classical music classical, and what makes metal music metal, and they have found, a center point. They have found a way to merge these two into a single cohesive idea, and it is entrancing. I don't know if that's a word, but I am entranced by it. I've made that word up if it's not. Um, Enamored, enthralled. That's another good one. Uh, you know, I hear this and I just zone out trying to figure out everything that's going on, how everything's working together, really noticing the nuances where you can say, okay, this section is definitely more classical inspired. This section is a little bit more, raw metal, but they're still having these little, fringes of the complementary style in them. Really wild stuff. And then, like I mentioned, they're just real strong musicians. Uh, I can't even imagine having the chops or stamina to do any of this, even inaccurately. I mean, just that tremolo picking, the blast beats, the double bass kicks, it's wild for almost 5 minutes straight. It's just, it's really nice to see this level of composership We're gonna go with it. Mixed with musicianship and just it's just a really strong merger to be able to write this stuff and play it. It's just fascinating. Even though I don't think I'd ever go out of my way to listen to this, I'm interested in listening to more to see what else they can do, to see how else they blend the genre. But I don't know that I would ever go out of my way to listen to this in my leisure. Yeah, I'm not going to be throwing this in my car on the way to the store or something like that. But I am very intrigued by it, and I definitely want to listen to more of their stuff, even if I only end up listening to their every song of theirs once, just so I can experience what they have to offer. So yeah, Flesh God Apocalypse definitely lives up to their name. And I was kind of worried going in, and it lived up to the brutality of their name. I'll say that. So yeah, this is where you guys come in though. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of Flesh God Apocalypse, what you thought about the merger between classical and death speed metal. Uh, if that's not a genre, I'm coining it today because this is speed death metal. And if there's other tracks I should listen to, I know Violation was very popular. There were a couple others. I want to say, yes, Lorenzo said that there were a couple more clean songs off of their latest album. Maybe I should check out Sugar or The Day Will Be Gone. And I think that would be an interesting thing for me to check out. Man, there's a lot of possibilities there. That's probably what I'll do when I return to them is check out some of their newer stuff. That's cleaner, maybe a little bit more mellow, just so I can see a lot of the nuances between the metal and the classical. Because while I did see a lot of it, I also think the brutality and speed of the track also covers a bit of it up just because it's brutal, and brutality is just loud and in your face and center of attention. And even though the orchestra was there and the chords that they were choosing for the brutal metal parts were still inspired by the classical bits, um, the brutal was definitely the dominant theme here. And I'd like to see if maybe we can reverse that or find a nicer middle ground. And I wonder if some of their more modern tracks can be that. But yeah, go ahead and put some stuff down in the comments. Let me know what you thought. If there's anything else I should check out from them. And tomorrow's the last day in popular request week, and we have a lengthy one. So I'm sure a lot of people are excited about that. The epics on this channel seem to get a lot of views. Everything over 10, 12 minutes it's always good for the channel as far as growth wise. It's always good for me though because I love long proggy tracks. Within reason. I've heard that there's an 80-minute track floating around out there that somebody might request of me one day, and 80 minutes is a long time, man. That's a long time to listen to a single song. But yeah, so we'll be back tomorrow with a lengthy one to finish out the week, and then Saturday we'll have a new patron picks, and that'll round out the week. And next week, I don't remember what next week is. I'm pretty sure it's some. Oh, it's bands that I've heard of before. Bands that I don't necessarily know their songs, but I know of them. Maybe I know what genre they're from. Maybe I've heard a single, stuff like that kind of thing, or I at least have some knowledge about the band. So I'm kind of I'm really interested in that. To check out some of these bands that have kind of flown under my radar for these last decade, I guess. All right, so yeah, that's a lot of forward-facing news. I will be back tomorrow to finish out the week. And until then, you guys stay safe out there and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.